Three, two. Hey, Josh, will talk to us. Tell me one or a couple tactics, strategies, or thoughts we can do with Google Ads that you know can definitely help other practice owners out if we were to implement it today.
Hey, Michael. Hey, thanks so much for having me, man. Always enjoy these, looking forward to it and just kind of prepping for it. What I want to kind of do today is bring your listeners some like mindset shifts. And I know you're real big on, the practical and like, hey, things we can implement right now. And so what I want to do is just maybe help us get our head around why digital ads, I think, in my opinion, is probably one of the best marketing investments for dental practices today. Like it always has been, it's even more so today. And so I just want to walk everybody through 4 points. I think they're just kind of more mindset shifts that you can grab a hold of right now that will only help your effectiveness with your digital ad campaigns.
All right, man, let's dive into it.
Awesome. So the first one is just really it's exposure, man. There's no less expensive way right now in dentistry to get exposure in the digital space. And so this fact alone, like if we're looking at exposure as the goal, like let's just get people introduced to our practice, that fact alone with digital ads has made so many practices hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue. And I don't know that we fully appreciate the fact that we can get somebody to like let's pretend like we can get somebody to see our sign, which is our ad. Like pretend somebody's driving past your office. Like we all understand the concept of roadside signage in a great location. So if your digital ads are your sign, do we fully appreciate the fact that we can get somebody to see that for a couple bucks and then get them to walk into the practice, which is visit the website for anywhere from $2 to $10 a click? That type of exposure has never, ever been in our fingertips before. And so, look, it goes without saying, if your ad and your website aren't awesome, some of that investment exposure is going to get wasted. But if you have a great brand and a great web experience, you literally, in my opinion, you can't waste money getting exposure, right? Like if your brand is built right, your web experience is amazing, then how could you even waste money getting people to go there?
Yeah.
And so it may not seem like it's paying off in the first 30, 60, 90 days, like in the short term, but man, now I'm watching practices now that have done this for 6, 7, 8 years. And that cumulative effect will create more momentum than you could ever imagine.
Gotcha. So one is exposure, right?
Yeah.
What you were talking about. I like the way you put it. Like it's like like a roadside sign, like a billboard, right? And
Yeah.
I feel like, do you think that can get expensive or no?
Man, I think like when you're talking dollars, for exposure and introducing people to your practice, I don't think we're there yet. I don't think it's quite there. I think Google, and this is a fair point, Google is getting more and more expensive every year. I kind of give this analogy. Michael, remember when people were in the yellow pages?
Yeah.
And they'd have like a full page ad and it was like $30,000 a year, right?
Yeah.
And so then Google comes out and everybody's like, oh, it's the digital yellow pages. And we all got out of yellow pages and we're like, oh man, I saved my 30,000. Well, Google knew they'd get the $30,000 back at some point. So now we're there, now we're to the point where a lot of practices have 18, 24, 30, plus ad spend. So we're back. But I don't think we've quite even saturated that point yet to where it's gotten expensive.
I mean, I don't know if you can talk about this or not, but like, cause you work with hundreds of practice owners, right? I mean, like practices.
Yeah.
What have you seen where you're like, when someone tells you like, hey, I want to spend this much, you're kind of like, oh my gosh, you ain't gonna get anything with that. You know what I mean? And then when you're like, oh, you want to spend that much, you'll get the sky's the limit for you.
Yeah. Yeah. So 2 examples, high end, low end. We've got our, practices, we won't work with them for under 1,500 a month. Just general new patient ad campaign, just because I don't think you're going to get the exposure that you want on Google for anything less than that. And I know a lot of the other agencies around as well, and they're all in that kind of same ballpark. So I think the market has kind of shown 1,500 is about the minimum you can spend to really get a good return. But Michael, we've got practices spending 40,000 a month plus. And some of these this will this will freak you out. But they're startups, and their goal is to go from 0 to 3 million in year one. And they're doing it. Like, this is the third time this has happened. So it goes to show you, like, so this practice that dropping 40,000 a month in Google ads, they had over 100 new patients that first month. So is 40,000 worth it? Is 100 new patients worth it? Is going from 0 to 3 million the first year worth it? As business owners, there's an ROI there. You have to kind of figure that out for yourself.
How many months do they are they still doing that, or no? How many months are they doing that 40,000?
Oh yeah, no, they'll scale it back to like 28,000 at some
Yeah.
point. But it'll always kind of keep playing. We're on number 3 now, and it's just always held.
Like number three by the third month, you mean, or?
No, number like the third practice, so it's been like proven the first 2 times, and then now the third one is like, let's go. And these are big practices, right? Like, he's building them with like 18 ops, and yeah, and kind of have to go pretty big
Yeah.
to start with.
Yeah. So 40,000, you say like the first 6 months to spend that much, or the first
First
leading up to
year.
like, oh, the whole first year. Oh,
Yeah,
okay. So
it'll be most of
40,000
the
a
first
month.
year. Yeah. And you look at that, like, so that will really tilt people. A lot of people listening to this, it'll tilt their mindset. But even if you said you spent 40,000 a month, you invested 40,000 a month, that's $500,000 for the year. But if you go from 0 to 3 million in that first year, is that worth it? And the thing is like, he knows what we all know, which is marketing works. Sometimes it's just the guts to make that investment, right? And knowing like that exposure will generate new patients, which will lead to a certain amount of revenue. And so if you can scale that up, and that's why I come back to this whole point of, man, I still feel like Google is the best investment you can ever make right now in a dental practice. But it's
Yeah.
long term, man. It's exposure. You're playing that game.
Yeah. 40, man. Okay. So then, and then you're right. It is, I think that is like, you got to have like the stomach to be like, oh my gosh, I'm about to drop
Yeah.
this much, and you're a startup. You know what I mean? Like, maybe not even that big, 18 ops, but okay, we'll jump back to that. What's the second point?
Yeah. So second point is that it's supplemental. So first one was exposure. Second one is supplemental. Like, digital ads are meant to be supplemental, like supplemental to your branding, to your web experience, to a great patient experience, to word of mouth, your community involvement. One of the top mistakes I see when approaching digital ad campaigns is if you're setting it up as the end all marketing strategy. Like, I've got 6 months, so this better work, And so like on the flip side, if you're like, hey, I've got 6 months at $1,500 and it better work, then that strategy is probably like you're setting it up to not to probably fail from the beginning. Marketing is never, I have this saying, marketing is never a hammer hitting a plate of glass. It's always the power of 1,000 little drips. And
Yeah.
so sometimes we look at marketing like it's magic dust or these magic beans that grow into the giant stalk, when really it's the power of compound interest over time. And so if you can let those campaigns work for you over the next 12 months, 24 months, or even 36 months, that's when you really start to feel the momentum like kicking in.
Yeah. Don't they say like what breaks the boulder is not like that huge chunk of
Yeah.
rock that you throw at it. It's that little drip that keeps dripping and dripping. So
It's the
yeah, you're right.
constant rainstorm that erodes it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I like that digital ads are meant to be supplemental to the branding website. What would you recommend then? Like if you're trying to get new patients and you use digital ads to supplement, do you just I guess like new patient special, or what are you thinking?
You can, man. I always like it. For me, it depends on the practice. If that's part of your model, I'm like, man, go for it. I think
Mhm.
offers and incentives are a great way to do it. If that's not your practice, I mean, like if I'm working with a fee for service practice, we're not going to go that way at all. It's just the exposure, the positioning of, hey, we're one of the top practices in the community, and you should check us out. So yeah, I think this whole supplemental thing is like, hey, first, like we all know this, running a good business is have a really great patient experience that other people can tell other people about, have a great brand experience, have a great digital experience, and then drive ads to it. And the whole thing, it becomes magic at that point. It just works really, really well.
Yeah. So fee for service, for the ones who are listening and are fee for service, you would just recommend they talk about their branding, or like, hey, we're the best.
Yeah, for me, it's like name recognition. It's just exposure. It's just like, hey, we think we're one of the top practices. We'd love to, chat with you. Would love to see you. Would love to have you experience uh, our team at first appointment. So I think it's just kind of that confidence. I prefer marketing with that type of confidence of, hey, we're one of the top practices. If you're looking for that and that's important to you, come see us. But then there's other practices where it's like, yeah, we've got the new patient special. We're dealing more with volume. I mean, if you're trying to get 100 new patients through the door, you're probably going to have an incentive attached to it. And so it's not good, bad, right, or wrong. It's just different models.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I like that. Marketing with confidence. Gotta get
Yeah.
a gotta get a shirt with that on it next or
There you
something like
go.
that. Okay, so the third one is which what? What?
Okay, so third is just website traffic. And I think sometimes we could maybe miss this, but honestly, the more people you get to your website, like your website has a certain conversion rate,
Mhm.
a certain conversion percentage. So once you know that, it makes sense. Then the more people you get to the site, the more convert into new patients. So some of this is you're in a digital campaign to drive traffic to the site because you know you have a certain conversion rate. And so if you look at it like that, it kind of takes, it just takes, you see it with a different light where it's not so much about getting a digital ad campaign isn't necessarily about getting butts in the chair, which I always hear from dentists. And I love, like, I understand the ROI, like I need to get my ROI back on the digital ad campaign, but digital ad campaigns are really about the next step, which is they see the ad, they click it, and you're driving them to your website. So, for $1,500 a month, which is our minimum campaign, you probably see between 500 to 1,000 unique visitors to your website that month. And so obviously that range is completely, it just varies, depends on the area and the competitiveness and all that.
Yeah.
But so if you think about that, like, let's say you're getting 1,000 new patients to your site every single month. Well, look, a lot of patients don't make a buying decision that month, but maybe 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months from now, they'll come back and be like, oh yeah, okay, now I'm ready. So if you're driving 1,000 extra visitors to your site every month, those just stack up. And at some point they start to tip. That's why I said, like, 12 months from now, 24 months from now, you've got a ton of momentum that you never even knew you had because all these people are now beginning to tip.
Gotcha. Okay. Because I hear a lot about like, oh, you should have a landing page for your, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What do you think about
Yeah.
that?
Man, I understand it. And so it's yes and no. We take the approach of, if it's general new patients, we prefer to send them to the homepage, to the main website with call to actions, because they have that whole kind of experience. And a lot of the stuff we do isn't so incentive driven. If it's specialized campaigns around dental implants, Invisalign, then absolutely, yes,
Mhm.
you need a landing page. And I would say, even if you're offering a specific incentive, you need a landing page as well. But Michael, I love digital marketing, and I love, like, all the creative things we do with it. I think sometimes we forget that most people need, it depends on the report you look at or the study, but most people need between 7 to 18 touches by a brand to make a buying decision. And so I think sometimes our expectations, we put a Google ad out there and we've got butts in the chair. And again, I understand that, but it's not always realistic. And so if you have a digital ad campaign that's running every single month, that's driving 1,000 unique visits to your site every month, those are just continued touches that people are getting.
Yeah. Cheeks and seats is mainly what
Cheeks and
people
seats.
kind
I've heard you
of
say that before. Yeah.
I'm trying to get everybody else to say that. I'm just kidding. But you're right. I think it depends on a lot on money and how tight the practice is, right? Like, it's, for example, like startups are pretty tight, right? It's like, oh my gosh, I need new patients now. What's working for everybody right now, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how great the quality would be later on, you know what I mean, on the campaign, the patients and anything like that. But I feel like what you're talking about is like uh build all that up beforehand, so when they come in, they're primed, they're ready. Great type of patient is coming in just for your practice. You know what I mean?
I am. Michael, you're 100% right. And I think you've done 3 or 4 episodes previous on this topic. And I think they were brilliant. And they were all more like the short term and the cost per click and a lot of the analytics. Because the thing that's amazing about Google is that'll happen. It's the best way to get patients in the door within a 30-day period of time, like hands down. So startups need to do it. Practices need to do it. You need to see that short-term return. Where I'm trying to come out with this episode is, hey, there's some bigger macro kind of mindsets around this, which is why I think you shouldn't just look at it as like a 90 days, 6-month kind of thing. You should look at it long term, because I think those benefits far outweigh the attention that we give it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Okay. So the fourth point.
Yeah. Fourth is just location. So, in real estate, there's this saying, it's location, 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 man. In Google, like a good reason to have a Google digital ad is location. You are at the top of that search page. And, Google will typically list 2 to 3 ads at the top, and then, 3 to 4 business listings. And then maybe you see like 1 or 2 organic listings. So, if you're pull it up on your computer and you search and you've got 6 to 8 listings, you being one of those is super valuable. It's real estate, like it's digital real estate. So sometimes I'm like, man, it's worth $1,500 a month just to be in the top. And even more so, like people say, well, I've got good SEO, so I don't have to do digital ads. And look, I think that's great if you're viewing it through that lens of maybe just the traffic. But if you are in that Google like business pack there and you're at the top with an ad, those are just less places that competitors can be. So there is a whole mindset of like, well, if I've got an ad and then I'm also in the business pack and then I'm one of the top couple organic listings, well, you've got 2 or 3 spots there that competitors can't be in. And a lot of times that's worth $1,500 or $2,500 or whatever you're investing per month. So thinking about it in terms of like location and its real estate is an important piece of that.
Yeah. I didn't think about it like that. That's where less places that competitors can be. You know what I mean? I always wonder that.
Yeah.
I'm like, if I were to like just type in Target on Google and then the Target ads show up before the actual Target website, I'm like, what the heck? Why do they do that? You know what I mean? Like, why are they spending that money? But maybe they're thinking that. You know what I mean? Like,
and for them, it's convenience too, right? They want you to just be able to click on it, super easy. They know psychologically people want to click on the first thing that's returned to them. Like that is an absolute psychological thing. So Target, it's worth them paying for it to be there to make it easy on you. So yeah, but I mean, real estate, if you're thinking, so this is why Aspen, will go into an area and they'll spend, over, $100,000 in digital ads, because it's not just about getting new patients. It's about pushing everybody else out and being perceived as one of the top leading practices in that community. Whether or not that's true is another story, but that's part of their motivation with it.
Gotcha. Awesome, Josh. I appreciate your time. And if anyone has further questions, you can definitely find them on the Dental Marketer Society Facebook group, or where can they reach out to you directly?
Yeah, man, reach out to me on Instagram at joshuascott.com. I still check all my DMs. I'd love to hear from you, or our website, s8e8.com.
Awesome. So guys, that's going to be in the show notes below. And Josh, thank you for being with me on this Monday morning marketing episode.
Thanks, Michael.